we've got some more Wildemount stuff coming. This time, it's the brand new School of Magic, if you will, the manipulation of Dunamancy spells. There are spells of every level in this book, and if you want to see what they are, stay tuned. So first off, with the Dunamancy spells, there's a note here for Dunamancy for non-Dunamancers, which is a weird term. But you can see here there is a list with an asterisk for Chronergy spells and Graviturgy spells. And it basically is saying certain spells should be available to just those subclasses. Don't make it like a blanket. Do not simply add the full spell list to other spellcasting classes. As basically saying you can come up with reasons why, maybe unlocking some of these spells. I don't know how many people are actually going to listen to that, but I like the concept of a forbidden form of magic. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through lists in order of spells. So let's start with Sapping Sting. An action, 30-foot range, Constitution save. Make a con save or take a d4 necrotic damage and fall prone. This increases by a d4 as per usual, and it just knocks somebody prone. Gift of Alacrity. This is a 1-minute casting time. It lasts for 8 hours. Touch a willing creature. We've seen this on Critical Role. For the duration, you can add a d8 to your initiative rolls. Nothing too crazy. That is a Chronergy spell. We have Magnified Gravity. It's a Graviturgy spell. This one's a little more complex. 1 action casting time. Range of 60 feet, looks like a 10-foot radius sphere, lasts for 1 round on a con save. Gravity in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point you can see within range increases for a moment. Each creature in that sphere on the turn when you cast the spell must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d8 force damage, and its speed is halved until the end of its next turn. On a successful save, a creature takes half damage and there suffers no speed reduction. Until the start of your next turn, any object that isn't being worn or carried in the sphere requires a successful strength check against your spell save DC to pick up or move. And then if you upcast it, the damage increases by a d8 for each slot above 1. So I like this spell. Let's see, it's first level. So it's doing 2d8 force damage as a first level spell. That's pretty solid. I think that's damage-wise, it fits. It's a radial damage as well. And it has some battlefield control capability. It also has the ability to make people possibly not be able to pick stuff up, which could be fun to mess around with, so I enjoyed that. It also, again, you'll notice that some of these don't have, whether they're Chronergy or Graviturgy, based right out the gate, like this cantrip. Fortune's Favor doesn't either. This is a 1-minute casting time, lasts for an hour. We've seen this on Critical Role as well. When the chosen creature, choose a creature, yourself or creature within range of touch. When the chosen creature makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, before the spell ends, it can dismiss this spell on itself to roll an additional d20 and choose whichever d20 it wants to use. Alternatively, when an attack roll is made against the chosen creature, it can dismiss the spell itself to roll a d20 and choose which one of the d20s to use, the one it rolled or the one the attacker rolled. If the original d20 roll has advantage or disadvantage, the creature rolls the additional d20 after advantage or disadvantage has been applied to the initial roll. So it's basically a luck point per the lucky feat, essentially. When you cast this spell using a roll spell's 3rd level or higher, you can target 1 additional creature. It does require a white pearl worth at least 100 gold, which is consumed by the spell. Consumed by the spell, Caleb. Make sure you're taking that into consideration. Immovable Object. This is a Graviturgy spell. 2nd level, again, 1 action, 1 hour duration, non-concentration. You touch an object that weighs no more than 10 pounds and cause it to become magically fixed in place. You and the creatures you designate when you cast the spell can move the object. This could be hilarious. Can move the object normally. You can also set a password that, when spoken within 5 feet of the object, surpasses this spell for 1 minute. If the object is fixed in the air, it can hold up to 4,000 pounds of weight. More weight causes the object to fall. Otherwise, a creature that can use an action to make a strength check against your spell save DC. On a success, the creature can move the object up to 10 feet. See, I'm not sure how I feel about that. It can hold up to 4,000 pounds, but on a strength check, someone can push it. Oops. Time to get up for work. If you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th or 5th level, the DC to move the object increases by 5, above whatever your spell save DC is, and it can carry up to 8,000 pounds, and the duration lasts for 24 hours. 6th level or higher, the DC increases by 10, and it can carry up to 20,000 pounds, and the effect is permanent. That was what I was looking for, because I assumed there was a way to make this permanent. Gold dust worth at least 25 GP that is consumed by the spell. So that's cool that like you could lock something in place permanently, except for people you designate. And there's no number to the creatures you can designate that could move it, or you could set like a password for 1 minute, and I wonder if you can reset that password. That's interesting. Again, I can't think of a great option off the top of my head. This could be something like a Lich could use, so no one could move their phylactery. That could be fun. Wrist pocket. I believe we've heard of this because I think I want to say Not had this in Critical Role or had made this spell. 1 action casting time duration is concentration up to an hour. You flick your wrist, causing 1 object in your hand to vanish. The object, which can only be holding, or maybe it was Scanlan had this. I don't remember. Somebody had this in one of the episodes. The object, which only you can be holding, can weigh no more than 5 pounds. It is transported to an extra dimensional space where it remains for the duration. Until the spell ends, you can use your action to summon the object to your free hand, and you can use your action to return the object to the extra dimensional space. An object still in the pocket plane when the spell ends, appears in your space at your feet. So it doesn't have a long-term thing, and you do have to concentrate on it, which is kind of a bummer. But you can like take something and just be like, whoosh, man, it's gone into its extra dimensional plane. Nobody knows where it is. They can't track it. It's no longer on this plane of existence, and then you can call it right back. It also has a very kind of like traditional sleight of hand magic kind of feel to it. But the fact that it is only an hour in concentration means that when you're going to be able, although it's a ritual too, you can cast it as a ritual. This is funky. You can cast it as a ritual, but it still has a concentration duration of an hour, which is funky. I guess if you're prepping ahead of time to do this, that would make some sense. Again, it has uses. You just need to think through what's the best way to do it. I like it a lot, actually. I just feel like it's kind of a funky thing because the duration is so short. If it was permanent as well, or there was a way to make it permanent, that would be really cool. Level 3, the only level 3 spell we have is Pulse Wave, which is both Chronergy and Graviturgy, it looks like. 30-foot cone. You create an intense pressure, unleashed in a 30-foot cone and decide whether the pressure pushes or pulls creatures and objects. Each creature in the cone must make a con save. They take 66 force damage on a failed save, or half on a success. And every creature that fails is either pulled 15 feet toward you or pushed 15 feet from you, depending on the choice you made for the spell. In addition, unsecured objects that are completely within the cone are likewise pulled or pushed 15 feet. For 4th level or above, the damage increases by a d6. Well, I mean, this is a Jedi, right? I like that. Force push, force pull. Level 4, we have Gravity Sinkhole, a Graviturgy spell. 120-foot range. 20-foot radius sphere of crushing force forms at a point you can see within range and tugs creatures there. Each creature in the sphere must make a con saving throw. On a failed save, they take 5d10 force damage and are pulled in a straight line towards the center of the sphere, ending in an unoccupied space as close to the center as possible. On a successful save, the creature takes half damage and isn't pulled. For 5th level or higher, it doesn't increase by a d10. So this basically is creating a black hole that is damaging people and pulling them. 20-foot radius sphere, yeah, I guess. On a failed save, the creature form. I'm just trying to make sure I'm reading this right. Each creature in the sphere makes the saving throw. It takes the damage and is pulled towards the center. Okay. So I was thinking like gravity is pulling people from outside. It's only pulling people from inside the 20-foot radius sphere towards the center. So I guess this is more like Zarya's ultimate in Overwatch, where you're creating the gravity well and pulling everybody to the center. Although it does damage too. Temporal Shunt. This is a Chronergy one. A reaction-based spell at 5th level. This could be interesting. You target the triggering creature. What's the reaction? Taken when a creature you can see makes an attack roll or starts to cast a spell. Okay. You target the triggering creature, which must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw or vanish, being thrown to another point in time and causing the attack or to miss or the spell to be wasted. At the start of its turn, the target reappears where it was or in the closest unoccupied space. The target doesn't remember you casting the spell or being affected by it. So, not only there's a wisdom, so it's a reaction, but there is a wisdom saving throw. It's not like counterspell where it just happens, or shield where it just potentially blocks things. They make a wisdom saving throw, but you teleport them to another place for this turn, or however long until the start of their next turn. They're out of this. Their attack misses, or their spell was wasted. I'd say it's probably bigger to waste the spell than to miss an attack, but depending on the scenario. And they have no recollection of you casting the spell, and they just don't know why it happened, which is cool. When you cast a spell with 6th level or higher, you can target one additional creature. See, that's weird though, because it happens when a creature makes an attack roll or casts a spell. But if you cast it at a higher level, you can target one additional creature for each slot above 5th. I guess that's just to take them out of the combat. One person's doing it, and you're making them miss or the spell be wasted, but then you can also send other people away. I guess that's what that's for. You're temporarily shunting them away. That makes sense. That's an interesting spell. I like that. Gravity Fissure, obviously a Graviturgy spell. 100-foot range of self. Well, this might be more what I was thinking of the gravity well. You manifest a ravine of gravitational energy in a line originating from you that is 100 feet long and 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a con save, taking 8d8 force damage on a fail or half on a success. So this is like a lightning bolt, but with d8s, or a cone of cold, I guess, is 8d8 as well in a cone. This is 8d8 in a line. Each creature within 10 feet of the line must succeed on a con save. Okay, so this is why it's at such a high level. Because each creature, so you shoot the line out, everybody in the line, 100 feet long, 5 feet wide, takes 8d8 force damage on a failed save, or half as much on a success. But then each creature within 10 feet of the line, but not in it, so on either side, must make a con save or take 8d8 force damage and be pulled towards the line until the creature is in its area. Wait, does that mean they take the damage twice? So this immediately happens. It's not a persistent spell. You send out your gravity line. People that are in it immediately take the damage. Or they make the saving throw. Sorry. They make the saving throw or take half damage. Okay. Each creature within 10 feet of it on either side must make a con save or take damage and be pulled towards the center. If they succeed, they don't get pulled and they don't take the damage. That's what that's about. Okay. 7th level or higher, increase the damage by a d8. All right, for 7th level, we've seen this. Matt Mercer posted this Tether Essence. One action, 60-foot range, duration of 1 hour. 2 creatures you can see within range make a con save with disadvantage if they are within 30 feet of one another. Either creature can willingly fail the save. If either save succeeds, the spell has no effect, so both need to fail. If both saves fail, the creatures are magically linked for the duration regarding the distance between them. So that's up to an hour worth of concentration. When damage is dealt to one of them, the damage is dealt to the other one. If hit points are restored to one, the same number are restored to the other one. If either of the tethered creatures is reduced to 0 hit points, the spell ends on both. If the spell ends on one creature, it ends on both. It needs a spool of platinum cord worth at least 250 gold, which the spell consumes. So obviously, this has multiple uses, right? You could put this on someone, so if the enemy goes to hit them, they take the damage as sort of a retributive damage. Or you could put this on allies, so when you heal one ally, the other ally gets the heal as well. So that's a way to potentially increase your healing without having to use multiple spell slots. Level 7 is, we just did that with Tether Essence. Level 8, we have Dark Star, which is Graviturgy. 150-foot range, looks like a 40-foot radius, concentration for a minute. You create a sphere centered on a point within 150 feet. Its radius is 40 feet. It's filled with magical darkness and crushing gravitational force. For the duration, the spell's area is difficult terrain. A creature with dark vision can't see through the magical darkness, and non-magical light can't illuminate it. No sound can be created within or pass through the area. Any creature or object entirely inside the sphere is immune to thunder damage, and all creatures are deafened while entirely inside it. Casting a spell that includes a verbal component is impossible here. Any creature that enters the spell's area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there must make a con save. The creature takes 8d10 force damage on a failed or half on a success. A creature reduced to 0 hit points by it is disintegrated. A disintegrated creature and everything it is wearing and carrying except magic items are reduced to a pile of fine gray dust. And you need a shard of onyx and a drop of the caster's blood, both of which are consumed. So this is like Hunger of Hadar on steroids. I mean, this is a 40-foot sphere. You can't move it, so it's going to be stationary, so that's something to consider, but you could throw people into it. It's difficult terrain. They can't see. They can't cast spells with verbal components. Plus, it does a whole bunch of damage. Pretty awesome. Next up, we have Reality Break. So this spell is basically going to be a send someone through an alternative reality, but what's important to note here is it persists. So they make a wisdom save. If they fail, they can't retake. They must succeed, or they can't take reactions until the spell ends. Then, basically, the target must roll a d10 at the start of each of their turns, and something bad happens to them. They get a wisdom save at the end of each of their turns to end it. You only get to cast this at a single person, and it's concentration for a minute. Basically, as if they roll higher on that d10, it's going to be worse and worse for them. So it starts off with a 1 to 2, a 6d12 psychic damage, and they're stunned until the end of the next turn. 3 to 5 is an additional dexterity saving throw, which this one kind of sucks because you have to make another saving throw, or take 8d12 force damage, and that's it. So it's like you make a wisdom save. If you fail, then you have to make another dex save to take the damage. So I didn't realize that. So I'm not a huge fan of that part. Wormhole, they're teleported along with everything they're wearing and carrying 30 feet to an unoccupied space of your choice. The target also takes 10d12 damage and is knocked prone. I will point out that it does not say that an unoccupied space can't be 30 feet up in the air. Then they drop, take the fall damage, and then also take this damage. And Chill of the Dark Void, they take 10d12 cold damage, and they're blinded until the end of the next turn. Very cool and interesting concept. And I'm sure there's even more concepts of what I'm saying of what you can do with it. On our big level 9s here, we have Ravenous Void. This is a Graviturgy spell. It has a 1,000-foot radius, and this is basically you making a black hole. You create a 20-foot radius sphere of destructive gravitational energy on a point you can see within range. For its duration, concentration up to a minute. The sphere and any space within 100 feet of it are difficult terrain, and any non-magical objects fully inside the sphere are destroyed. When the sphere appears, and at the start of each of your turns until it ends, unsecured objects within 100 feet of the sphere are pulled to its center, ending in an unoccupied space as close to the center as possible. Mind you, that's a 100-foot pull. A creature that starts its turn within 100 feet must succeed on a strength saving throw. If they fail, they're pulled straight towards the sphere's center, ending in an unoccupied space. It doesn't say how. Does it say how far they're pulled, though? I guess they're pulled 100 feet? I guess, right? I mean, a creature that enters the sphere for the first time on a turn, or starts its turn there, takes 5d10 force damage and is restrained until it is no longer in the sphere. If the sphere is in the air, the restrained creature hovers inside the sphere. A creature can use its action to make a strength check against your spell save DC, ending the restrained condition on itself or another creature in that sphere that it can reach. A creature reduced to 0 hit points in it is annihilated, along with any non-magical items they're carrying or wearing. So, from what I'm understanding, it says a creature that starts its turn within 100 feet of the sphere must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pulled straight toward the sphere's center. Yeah, so I guess it's just 100-foot, you get pulled in. I mean, it's a black hole, so that makes sense. What's interesting, though, is you could put this 100 feet up in the air, or 90 feet up in the air, and it would pull people up off the ground into it. Now they're being restrained, floating in the air inside this sphere, and if they somehow manage to break out, they're going to fall and take falling damage, and potentially, depending on where your turn is, you could just suck them right back up in. and keep that damage going. So that's a pretty interesting... I mean, also it's a level 9 spell, so creating a black hole, pretty cool. And lastly, we have Time Ravage. This is rapid aging. Basically, you're going to pick somebody within 90 feet to make a con save and take 10d12 necrotic damage on a fail, or half on a success. If the save fails, the target also ages to the point where it's only 30 days away from before it dies of old age. In this aged state, they have disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws, and their walking speed is halved. Only the Wish spell or Greater Restoration cast out of a 9th level slot can end these effects and restore them to their previous age. It does require an hourglass filled with diamond dust worth 5,000 gold, which is consumed by the spell to do it. So consider that, but if you're 20th level or at least 17th level, slinging 9th level spells, you might be able to have that relatively easily. So it's interesting because there are some classes that have abilities that mean they can't be magically aged. I think monks and Oath of the Ancient Paladins and possibly some druids can no longer be aged. So I think they still take the necrotic damage, because the way I read it, the necrotic damage is one part and then the aging is a secondary part. So they would take the necrotic damage and then they just wouldn't be aged, and that wouldn't have any side effects, negative side effects for them. It just, that part wouldn't work, but the damage still would, if I'm understanding that correctly. So that's cool. It's an interesting concept. Again, it's rapid aging. I like that. If I was going to look at all of the spells here, I think my favorite is probably Pulse Wave, because it makes me think of a Jedi. And I like the cantrip because I like that it's damage, but it's also knocking prone. And that has a ton of really cool utility with working with other party members, potentially knocking somebody prone. But also, if you're one of the classes that somehow gains access to this and then has like bonus action, either can cast cantrips as a bonus action or can bonus a cantrip and then bonus action attack, you could get advantage if they're prone. There's a lot of utility for that. I'd say I don't really feel like Wrist Pocket feels like a Dunamancy spell to me. It seems kind of out of left field out of all of them. And it's funny because almost every other one has like 1 or 2 spells, and second level has 3. So I feel like if you pulled Wrist Pocket out, it would make more sense to me. It just doesn't fit that type of spell in my mind. Again, Wrist Pocket doesn't really seem to fit to me. But I'm curious, what is your favorite spell from this? I thought there was going to be more spells, not just Dunamancy in this book. Like, it was going to have the Dunamancy because that's a key thing, but then maybe also other spells, maybe Rain Prince of the Sword Adventure Goes to Adventure Guide spells. But I am curious what your thoughts are. What is your favorite spell from Explorer's Guide to Wildemount? And were you thinking like me, there might be other spells that weren't just in the Dunamancy field of magic? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't taken a moment to subscribe, be sure to do so, because I'm going to be covering not only the new backgrounds, the new background mechanic, the new magic items, the new monsters, and maybe some more new stuff. So I'm going to be full coverage of Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. So if you want to see my opinions and thoughts on that going forward, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay up to date. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.